Welcome to a special edition of the Gary Neville podcast, because we've watched a special football match between two very special teams, and we're still no wiser really as who's going to win the title, are we? Or do you think that point was better for City than for Liverpool?
I think before the game I thought a point would have been better for City, but I think at half-time the game could have been out of sight, and Liverpool, the response in the second half was exceptional. I mean, I thought they were so poor first half, so well below the standard. And I said just after half-time, actually when Liverpool scored, I always remember going back to Sir Alex Ferguson, if we ever played really badly in a big game in the first half, and you'd waited sort of, it was at the end of the season, I do remember him saying a couple of times, have you fought all season? Have you fought all your lives? Have you fought for the last 3 or 4 years against this Arsenal team to play like that against them? And almost remind you that you've got to go and play. And it was almost as if at half-time Jurgen Klopp had to go in and say, come on, this team, we've built this for 3 or 4 years, and you've gone out there in that first half, you showed no authority, you froze a little bit, you defended poorly, and yet they responded brilliantly in the second half. So I have to say at the end of the game, I think it's a good point for Liverpool considering where they were at half-time. But City could have won the title today, I think, by winning the game. I don't think Liverpool could have won the title because I do think Liverpool's running is harder. So, look, it does move on. It wouldn't surprise me if both of them won every game towards the end of the season, and we're sat here thinking, if you're Liverpool, well, I wish we played better in that first half, but we don't know. There's still a long way to go.
It was played, though, like it was the title decider today. It was frenetic and fantastic. It
was frenetic, and it was, they're punch for punch. Some of the things you watch are exceptional. They put pressure on each other. Their defence is pushed so high, which is, honestly, Martin, you know football as well as I do. To have your defence pushed so high in a big game like that, the easiest thing in the world is to drop. For a team to drop, for a defence to drop, but they still push high. They still, even in the last 10 minutes, Liverpool's backline's pushing up, City's backline's pushing up. They're true to their principles, they're true to the manager's beliefs, and they don't wilt. They don't wilt. And look, I said just after half-time, Liverpool have got real guts. They're a street fighter. Before the game, I said I thought the job that Jurgen Klopp had done at Liverpool in some ways surpassed what Pep Guardiola had done at City, just in terms of what they actually picked up, the net spends, the wage bills, all that. And we've just seen in the second half, that's just energy and passion and spirit and fight that we've seen from Liverpool. And they've come back in the second half, so well done to them. But City are a brilliant team. You can't really speak highly enough of them. There's no more words for these two in terms of what they've achieved in this last few years. And they're going to go for it in this last few weeks. Hell for leather, FA Cup, Champions League and the Premier League.
It is amazing. The 1 point that separates them is the only point that separates them over the last 4 years. I mean, it's an incredible rivalry.
It's unbelievable. Was it 338 versus 337 points? It's the quality and the consistency. I know Jamie Carragher riled a few during the week when he said it was the greatest rivalry of all time.
Well, what do you think of that?
I didn't bite.
It's got a case.
Of course he's got a case.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of consistency and quality and excellence, I think he's absolutely got a point. The point I make is when you talk about rivalry, I almost feel like there's got to be more to it than that. It's almost like the ferocity, the intensity. Is there a story to tell of the rivalry? You know, you think about sort of like people point towards Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger and the Arsenal Manchester United. There were stories to tell, the tunnel incidents, the 99 last semi-final, the goal with the sort of thing over there, the Overmars goal at Old Trafford that wins the title. So there were moments that were really big between the two teams, along with the ferocity and the fights and the pizzas. So there was a rivalry that was more than just football excellence. So I don't think it beats that yet. Because I think there's too many hugs.
They like each other. A lot of hugs, yeah.
They like each other too much. But that's a good thing as well. I'm only joking there. But whether this will be a documentary in 25 years, I'm not sure. But it is an exceptional rivalry in the terms of excellence and consistency, which I admire. Look, what they're doing is absolutely brilliant. And the performance levels are high. And if anything, you'd want to see it go right to the death. You'd want to see them both in the Champions League final, not from a Manchester United point of view. I don't want to see them anywhere near it. But if you think about the two best teams in Europe at this moment in time, competing at Premier League level, next week competing in the FA Cup, and then they're going to potentially compete in the Champions League, you know, they deserve it because their two managers are out of this world. They really are out of this world, but both very different. Pep in a transformational way, what he's achieved, this type of football, the influence that he's had on the game, and Jurgen Klopp just for his spirit and passion, that sort of what would be pure football street fighter. You know, I see more of myself in Jurgen Klopp in terms than I do Pep Guardiola.
You're not João Cancelo.
No, I'm not João Cancelo at all. You know, I don't think I could play for this City team. I wasn't technically gifted enough. And if you look at Trent Alexander-Arnold, I'm not technically gifted enough to play for Liverpool. But you can see characters like Henderson for Liverpool and Milner and people like that just, you know, Fabinho, and even Thiago's got a fight and a spirit to him. Whereas City are just a thing of beauty. They're all perfect football players, but they've also got that spirit as well, but in a different way. It's just brilliant, really, I have to say. Other than the fact that they're the two teams I dislike the most, you just have huge admiration and respect for them because you can't help but like what you watch when you see them.
Anything football-wise, we've talked about the managers and the rivalry. Anything about the individuals that played in the game today that surprised you, disappointed you?
No, I'm not disappointed by anything that I've seen. I'd like to, in the first half, have seen more authority from Fabinho, from Van Dijk, from Alisson. You know, that Liverpool incredible spine. Thiago on the ball and Henderson, that experience that, you know, they've got there. I thought really in the first half they didn't play well. They didn't play well and they didn't show up.
They didn't get Salah in the game,
no,
did they?
But then, and Salah and Mane didn't get in the game. But then second half they turned up. Salah and Mane turned up in the second half. If you ever wondered whether they should start and whether Jota, I know Jota did come in, but Diaz should come in or Firmino should come back. You saw in that second half between Salah and Mane why they're still operating at the very highest level and why Jurgen Klopp, they built up so much trust. They've got too many credits in the bank for them to be hoiked off at half-time or for them to be even left out because they still deliver, and they delivered on that second goal that Liverpool equalised with.
What about the 7 games left? Liverpool have beaten 6 and drawn with Spurs of the 7, and City have beaten all 7 in the reverse fixtures. But it doesn't work out like that, Gary, does it?
No, I mean, look, I think just because of mindset that Liverpool play Manchester United and they play Everton and they play Tottenham, we think that it's going to be a lot more difficult on the run-in. And maybe the Tottenham game could cause them some problems. But Manchester United are as bad as it gets in the league at this moment in time. Everton are struggling like mad. But you don't know whether there is some type of emotion going to come into those games, which I'm sure we'll sort of play on a little bit in the build-up to them, and think that, well, are they going to provide problems that maybe ordinarily those two teams shouldn't do? And that's why I think we look at this sort of list and think that Liverpool have got a tougher run-in. Actually, those 2 games against Everton and Manchester United could be a lot more simple, even though one's a Merseyside derby and one's against, you know, Liverpool's greatest rival, could actually be easier than the games that City have got on the other side when you look at them and think, well, okay, City haven't got any of the big teams left. So that's probably something just to know. And I just think City will win every game. I don't know why. I don't know why I think that.
They've done it before.
They've done it before, yeah.
So have Liverpool.
And so have Liverpool. We're on the run-in, we're on the home straight, and these teams don't make mistakes. So it'll be a surprise to us if they do drop points. You could easily see them go neck for neck all the way to the end of the season, not one of them dropping the points. Historically, Martin, I'd be sat here now listening to Sir Alex Ferguson in the dressing room saying, if I was on the shoulder of City, I'd be saying, don't worry, they'll drop points. And they always would. They always would. There was never a time where a team just went unbeaten, win, all to the end of the season. It never happened. But these two do. And that's why the bar has been raised. So we don't know what we're going to see in this next few weeks, but I'd be surprised if we saw too many mistakes.
Well, you mentioned both Everton and Manchester United. Did you catch up with that game yesterday, or can you not watch Manchester United at the moment?
No, I watched it. I watched all of it. First thing to say is that I was away. I didn't see the Everton-Burnley game in the week, but what I did see is the interviews on social media the day after from Sean Dyche, and they actually made a bit of an impact on me. And I thought, it's harsh. That, you know, to say that publicly, that he'd said to his players at half-time, I don't think this team knows how to win a game, or something along those lines. Maybe on the edge of disrespectful, but certainly, you know, if you like, ramping up the mind games, turning the heat upon Frank Lampard. And I thought Frank Lampard won't like that. And you'd like to think the Everton players wouldn't like that, because it was a pretty harsh thing to hear from me. And we hear, you know, we've heard a lot over the last 25, 30 years in football. So for Everton to do what they did yesterday, I don't think they played particularly well at all. I don't think they had to. But for them to get that win and get that response, and then to see Burnley lose at Norwich today, it's swung in 3 or 4 days, and it's a massive swing for Everton, that. A massive swing from where they were. If you just said, after that game in midweek, you'd have thought, well, Manchester United probably will win at Everton or draw, and that Burnley will probably go and beat Norwich now they've beaten Everton, and that you'd see Everton in the bottom 3. And it's not happened. So first thing is to say well done to Frank Lampard, because I think he was on the edge, really on the edge. And I think his players were on the edge of probably something that would have put massive, I mean, they're on massive pressure anyway, but to go into that bottom 3 with that crowd there, the intensity of it, it would have been unbearable. So well done to Everton. From a Manchester United point of view, I've got very few words left. No anger. No comment anymore, just almost a bit of a farce, really.
Sort of, you expect it. From
Yeah, I almost expect it. Don't really know what to say. If you're a Ralph Rangnick, you almost think, well, what? I mean, other than professionalism, but they're almost taking, they're taking him down at the moment. It's nothing to do with Ralph Rangnick at all. But they're bad, and the effort and the. I don't know, Martin. I've said it in my last podcast, really. They've got to get to the end of the season as quickly as possible. The reality of it is, any type of performance in the last week against the two teams, they would have been in the top 4. But they haven't got the spirit and they haven't got the fight. And when I look at these two teams that have played out here today, they have humble football players. No egos, no overinflated egos. They have egos. Every football player has an ego.
Have to have egos.
Of course you have, but no overinflated egos. They all understand their position. The team comes first. And there isn't one single Manchester United player that's getting into any of those two teams, in my opinion. Not one are getting into any of those two teams at this moment in time. So why would you have an overinflated ego? Why would you think you don't have to work hard? Why would you be spiritless? Why wouldn't you just think you'd be fighting for your life? Now, I get the old confidence and drained bit and all the rest of it. But I don't see anything. I don't see anything anymore. And, I've read this morning that Erik ten Hag wants all his demands met or else he won't come to the club. You imagine in the next week, 10 days, they can't get Ten Hag over the line because of what's happening at the moment and how bad the club is and the state that the club's in.
Well, people in the Netherlands are probably asking, do you want this job now?
Well,
have a good look at it.
You look at sort of what they're doing to players, Manchester United currently. There isn't a player that has grown, really. And you look at what they did to Van der Beek. And if you're Ten Hag, I think you're on the phone to Van der Beek. You're thinking, what's it like there, Donny? He ain't going to be saying anything good, is he? So I suspect that Ten Hag's demands, not financial demands, control, recruitment, structure, youth, I'm suspecting he's wanting to come in and make sure that he's not going to be exposed to what other managers have been exposed to in this last 10 years. And that might be too much for Manchester United. And I suspect they've got maybe a difficult week or two. I still think they may get it over the line. But the reports this morning were such that Erik ten Hag's placing demands on the club that maybe are going above and beyond. Now, we don't know whether we should believe everything, but ordinarily nowadays, when things come out from the credible sources that we're seeing in more areas than one, we normally know that's,
no smoke without fire. Yeah.
The old adage from sometimes is, you don't believe anything in the press. But that's actually false, actually, because journalists, they hear it from somewhere. And if you've got multiple sources that are credible reporting the same type of story, you can ordinarily believe there's something in it. And it's all gone quiet on the Maurizio Pochettino front. So it all feels like it's all eggs in one basket with Ten Hag. But if they can't get him over the line, what a position for Manchester United to be in. If they can't get a manager to come in that wants to come in because of his demands on the way in about how the football club is run. And if you're Ralph Rangnick and you're reporting into Ten Hag and answering him honestly, which I suspect he will be, and if you're Van der Beek and answering him honestly, which I suspect he will be, and we know Edwin van der Sar's over there, who will be, speaking to Ten Hag honestly, they'll be saying be very careful. They'll be saying be very careful about going to Manchester United because it can be a graveyard at this moment in time for reputations. Ralph Rangnick came in with an incredible reputation, and he still has that reputation. But he's now starting to be wounded by what's happening around him. And he looks weaker and more vulnerable on the touchline because of the performances of the players on the pitch that are nothing to do with him. And I have to say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he's a good man. Those players liked him. and they turned him over. So I have to say it's a real difficult position for the club to be at. I feel a little bit at this moment in time, like most Manchester United fans, that I don't know where to turn next. What's going to happen? Living on the feeling still that one day the club will return. We know that, these times when you go low, but this is low. This is getting really low at this moment in time, and it will come back, and you look forward to that day. But those Liverpool fans there over in that far corner, they've been where Manchester United have been. They've been in those low moments when Manchester United have been winning, and they didn't have a team maybe that they could be as proud of. So they've been there. Maybe it's time for Manchester United fans to look over that shoulder and think, well, we'll be back there one day. But maybe it's time for those Manchester United players to obviously have a look at themselves as well. I do believe players want to do well. I believe those players want to do well. But what they're showing at this moment in time is nowhere near good enough.
Tottenham are showing what they should be showing at this vital time for them, and suddenly not only winning games but scoring bucket loads of goals, and now strong favourites to finish fourth.
Well, they're almost in some ways, I don't think they've been spectacular in this last couple of months, but they're almost growing out of the very recent run of Arsenal, and Arsenal starting to drop points, and what Manchester United are doing and thinking, hang on a minute, when you're starting to play a little, well, and the other teams are dropping points, you grow even more. And I think that's what's happening with Tottenham. I don't think there's anything spectacular happening there. In fact, you said a few weeks ago, Tottenham were, Conte was in that position where he was saying, I need backing in the summer to stay, if you remember the reports.
Yeah. But he got the two players across the line in January.
He got the two players in January, they're making a big impact. But even after that, there was a point whereby he was saying, well, Arsenal are going to finish top four, United will, Tottenham, he needs 100 million, 150 million in the summer, he needs backing to stay. But all of a sudden, Arsenal, I did fear Arsenal. I never trusted Arsenal, really, and I said that publicly.
There have been two very, very dismal performances. I was at Crystal Palace, and to be fair, Patrick Vieira could be very proud of Palace's performance, but Arsenal without Kieran Tierney, and then Partey went off injured.
Is that 3 and 4? 3 and 4 they've lost?
Three defeats in 4, with the Brighton defeat,
I said a few weeks ago I didn't trust Arsenal fully, and the reason behind that was because they needed to prove that they could go through a run-in where they were favourites for top 4. And those doubts are starting to come to the fore. And I have to say, I think Tottenham are just basically getting there through the fact that they've had a bit of experience in the last 3 or 4, 5 years of getting into the Champions League. And through Manchester United and Arsenal's woes.
And West Ham have lost today.
And West Ham have lost as well. Yeah. You're almost in some ways thinking, well, over to you, Tottenham. You might as well go and take the Champions League space. Why not? And we know they've got an exceptional front 2, front 3. We know that. But there's still a lot to play for. I think Manchester United are done. If I thought that the players had anything at all, I think they could still actually have a go. And, they've still got to play Arsenal. They've still got to play Chelsea. They've still got to play Liverpool. Man United are done. I thought they would do a few weeks ago. But I never considered for 1 second coming out of the international break they would be in as bad a place up here as they are. So it's now about whether Arsenal can recover, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure that they can. I think Tottenham's basically there for the taking.
Chelsea, of course, did show that they could recover that after conceding 7 goals at home in 4 days. That was a pretty spectacular response. We know Southampton, when it goes wrong, it goes heavily wrong. But that, from Chelsea's point of view, that was a perfect way to get ready to try and pull it out of the fire in Madrid.
Yeah. They've got a big game coming up in the midweek, but I think it was good for Chelsea that they re-established themselves firmly, and I think that to finish 3rd this season will be a good season for them, particularly with what's happened in this last few weeks. We obviously know that that's still playing out, but it was a good win for them yesterday. Was it 6 in the end, wasn't it?
It was 6,
6, in the end. So they
hit the post and bar about 4 times.
Yeah. Well. So look, it's a fantastic win for them. They are the 3rd best team in the country. They're consistent. They've got a great manager. Their spirit has not been damaged by what's happened in this last few weeks. They're quite a strong group. Not sure they're going to continue in the Champions League, but that is what it is. They're playing against a Real Madrid team. So from that point of view, I look at the next few weeks and think for Chelsea, cement 3rd place, get the season over, get new owners in place, and they've just got to try and make sure they keep the manager. They've got to keep the behind the scenes staff on the football side, and also keep the players in place. That's the big job for Chelsea, to stabilise. A big upheaval there in the last month or so that must have had an impact. So I think for Chelsea, for 3rd, and making sure that the new owners pick up a Champions League team and they don't blow up in the last part of the season, which they will do, they'll get 3rd. For me, that's a good season for Chelsea.
Final question. Who's going to win the league?
I think Manchester City will win the league. I've said it all season. I thought that a few weeks ago Liverpool might go and do them. I thought Liverpool had to win today. And I only say that from the 18-19 season when Liverpool drew against Manchester United and Everton. And at the time we thought, actually, they're good points then. But they ended up, because that was the season whereby they set that exceptional standard and they went right to the end and they lost by a point. I think Liverpool have seen that before. And I think they just needed to come and win. And I know it's difficult to win here, but I think City will just do it. But I've got no confidence. Who do you think will win it? You'll definitely be more right than I will with that.
I think it'll be either Manchester City or Liverpool.
You can't say it because you've got to be neutral in your... Oh, so have I, actually. Yeah. I'm as neutral as it can be on these particular two, actually. It's not a good thing for me to see either of them win the title. So, no, look, I think City. I think City just.
Thanks, Gary.